Way to go, Adam. You passed. But, unfortunately, we can't cover the tuition fees. I couldn't believe what my husband said, and I impulsively stood up from my chair. Wait a minute. That's absurd. Why can't we afford the tuition? Our son, Adam, sat motionless in his chair, expressionless. That's because I didn't expect this to happen. So I spent it all on Hannah's beauty treatments. Makeup and fashion cost money, you know. While changing his clothes with his back to us, Ben spoke without any sign of remorse. The hardships I had endured surged in my heart. I couldn't forgive him for spending money on his niece, while keeping such a tight grip on Adam. I have savings too. I've been saving desperately because you told me to. However, Ben laughed loudly when he heard this. Ah, the one hidden in that room, right? I spent it all on Hannah too. Too bad. That can't be true. It must be a lie. It's your fault, really. You used the same PIN as the one for our usual account. Of course, I used it. I felt a chill throughout my body. I hadn't expected Ben to find out. So I used the same PIN as our joint account. But now that he knew, there was no forgiving him for touching my money. Unable to hold back, I lunged at Ben. But just before I could grab him, Adam stood up from his chair and held my arm to stop me. Let go. Adam, please let go. Mom, it's okay. Because. He whispered quietly into my ear, and I stopped moving abruptly. Reassured by Adam's words, I steadily proceeded with the enrollment process. My name is Sandra. After graduating from a beauty school, I started working at a local hair salon. One day, I was asked to put on makeup for a wedding attendee where I met Ben. I was focused on my job and didn't pay him much attention. But it seemed he had fallen for me at first sight. As he left, he handed me a piece of paper with his contact information. Sorry to bug you, but just let me know if you're interested in talking. It wasn't unusual in my line of work. I was also starting to think about marriage. So I took it as fate and began dating him. Things progressed smoothly. And eventually, I married Ben. Married life was very happy, but I had one concern: my relationship with my mother-in-law. She got along well with Vanessa, Ben's sister-in-law, and always compared me and Vanessa. However, other than that, things went smoothly. A year after I got married, Vanessa gave birth to Hannah, and a little later, I gave birth to Adam. Subsequently, a party to showcase Hannah and Adam was held at Ben's family home. Everyone's attention was on Hannah. Even as a baby, she had clear, distinct eyes. And it was certain she would be beautiful. She also somewhat resembled Ben. So everyone teased that she was Ben's child. I felt uncomfortable hearing that. It's not pleasant to hear your husband compared to a relative's child. Unaware of my feelings, my mother-in-law was smitten with Hannah. She really is a cute child. I'm excited for her future. Compared to that, the other one is just okay. She said this and snorted through her nose as she glanced sideways at Adam, prompting other relatives to chuckle. Well, the other one doesn't really matter. More importantly, mother. I want to make this child a model. My mother-in-law's face lit up when she heard that. A model. That's a great idea. But how does one become that? To this question, Vanessa answered with a smug expression. Don't worry. I may not look it, but I have modeling experience. So, I have some connections. Indeed, Vanessa had been a reader model during college. She wasn't very famous. But the experience was significant. The way she carried herself and what she wore hinted at her past. Working in a hair salon, I could tell that Vanessa wasn't just all talk. That's reassuring. Modeling, that's like being on TV a lot, right? Yes, exactly. From there, some kids go on to become actresses. If this child becomes a model, we could become celebrities too. With those words, the relatives suddenly became enthusiastic. Everyone began expressing their hopes for Hannah, with Ben even joining in to praise Vanessa. Unnoticed by anyone, I held Adam in a corner of the room. Adam looked at my face with an innocent smile. Suddenly feeling sorry for Adam, I was almost moved to tears. Vanessa was receiving all the attention and looked very pleased. Well, everyone. Children don't grow up overnight, so let's look forward to their future. I understand. If money is needed, just say the word. I'll pay whatever is necessary. Thank you so much, Mother. From then on, we were completely ignored by the relatives. Struggling with the disparity in attention between Hannah and Adam, I worked desperately to raise Adam. Ben was of no help with parenting. Please, Ben. Spend some time with Adam. It's pitiful for him otherwise. No matter how desperately I pleaded, Ben wouldn't listen. Stop nagging. I'm busy with work. You alone are enough to take care of him. Saying that, he always pushed everything onto me and pretended not to notice. I regretted marrying Ben but didn't have the courage to divorce. The only salvation came from my parents back home. When I was utterly unable to cope, they took care of Adam and truly loved him. Without their support, I would have broken down. I managed to persevere and raised Adam. 10 years later, Adam had grown into a healthy middle school student. Ben was still disinterested in parenting. But one day he suddenly came home from work and said he wanted to talk. Is Adam still at school? When is he coming back? He'll be back soon. What's up? I had a bad feeling when Ben asked about Adam. I want him to aim for medical school. Tell him to study with that in mind. I was stunned by Ben's cold words. Wait just a minute. Why are you suddenly saying this? Don't decide his future on your own. My desperate plea seemed to irritate Ben, who clicked his tongue loudly. Listen, I'm his dad. You don't have a say in this. Got it? I can't accept that. You've never been involved in raising him. Shut up. That's your role. Are you earning enough to complain to me? No matter what Ben said, I couldn't back down. Then at least tell me. Why medical school? It's obvious. It's for the sake of appearances to my parents. I was left speechless by his answer. How does he see his own child? But Ben carried on without a care about how I felt. Listen, we're being compared to my brother's family. After all, Hannah is beautiful. In contrast, what does Adam have? He seemed to have a lot of pent-up frustration, as he continued to spit out terrible words. It's a disgrace, a disgrace. That's why he at least has to be smart. Do you understand? I clenched my fists tightly, unable to say anything. It felt like a knife was stabbed in my heart. Well, that's how it is. I'll tell Adam. He's going to study hard from now on, so you stay out of it. After leaving those words, he walked away. I became worried about my son, but couldn't oppose Ben. I secretly resolved to support Adam properly. From then on, Adam's days were filled with studying. After school, he spent late nights at a tutoring center, and on weekends, a home tutor found by Ben came over. He was not allowed to play or even participate properly in school events. If his scores were ever slightly bad, Ben would scold Adam without mercy. Thanks to his efforts, Adam graduated from middle school at the top of his class and entered a prestigious high school in the state. But Ben didn't ease his strictness and even ordered me to save money. Hey! Keep some money saved up. Tuition can really add up. So, don't go splurging on extras. Hey, let's stop this. This isn't good for anyone. Please reconsider. I tried desperately to stop Ben, but he wouldn't listen at all. Shut up. Didn't I tell you not to interfere? If you keep nagging, I'll kick you out of the house. With that said, I couldn't oppose him. However, it was clear that Adam was being pushed too hard. If this continued, his spirit might break. I took the opportunity when Ben was not around to speak to Adam. Adam, are you okay? I want to talk to you for a bit. Adam was solving problems on his desk. He glanced at me sideways without stopping his hands. I'm okay for now, but I can't talk for long. I need to solve all these by tomorrow. Okay, then I'll keep it brief. Dad says you have to go to medical school. But that's not absolute. If you have something else you want to do, you can pursue that path. Hearing my words, Adam smiled gently. Thanks, Mom. I'm glad you said that. But I'll aim for medical school. That way, Dad might acknowledge me, and he might be kinder to you. Adam's kindness almost made me cry. I felt ashamed to be yielding to Ben's demands. I understand. But remember, if it ever gets too hard, don't hesitate to tell me. I'm on your side. Don't forget that. I understand, Mom. I won't keep it all to myself. Then, good luck with the rest. After saying that, I left Adam's room and silently cried in the living room, so my tears wouldn't worry him. In high school, Adam continued to maintain top grades and applied to a medical school. 3 years later, the day of the entrance exam results arrived. When the time came, Adam checked the results online. Tentatively looking at the screen, his face suddenly brightened. I did it, Mom. I passed. Really? Congratulations. Adam and I cried together in joy. I immediately contacted Ben and went out to buy ingredients for a celebration. That evening, the dining table was laden with luxurious dishes. I chatted with Adam about our hardships while waiting for Ben to return. After 8 p.m., Ben came home from work, but he didn't seem very happy. What's wrong? Adam passed the medical school entrance exam. Ben looked awkward. I never thought he'd actually pass. He quietly grumbled to himself while removing his blazer. What are you talking about? Of course, he passed, he worked so hard. Ignoring my confusion, Ben said something unbelievable to Adam. Adam. Congratulations on passing. But unfortunately, we can't afford the tuition. I impulsively stood up from my chair. Wait a minute. That's absurd. Why can't we afford the tuition? Adam remained seated, his expression unchanged. That's because I didn't expect this to happen, so I spent it all. On what? I spent every last dime on Hannah's beauty stuff. She's taking modeling seriously. And you know that makeup and fashion can be pretty expensive. While changing his clothes with his back to us, Ben spoke without any sign of remorse. The hardships I had endured surged in my heart. I couldn't forgive him for spending money on Hannah after restraining Adam so much. Enough. So what are we going to do now? Be quiet. Don't talk back to me like that. Ben then glared at Adam and shouted. What are you looking at? Didn't you hear? Figure out the tuition yourself. Don't rely on your parents. Yes. I understand. I'll manage it myself. Adam's face was utterly expressionless. It's okay, Adam. You don't have to worry. I stepped in front of Ben to protect Adam. I have savings too. I've been saving desperately because you told me to. However, Ben laughed loudly when he heard this. Ah, the one hidden in that room, right? I spent it all on Hannah too. Too bad. That can't be true. It must be a lie. If you think it's a lie, you should check it out for yourself. It's mostly your fault anyway. You used the same PIN as the one for our usual account, so of course, I used it. I felt a chill throughout my body. I hadn't expected Ben to find out. So I used the same PIN as our joint account. But now that he knew, there was no forgiving him for touching my money. I can't forgive you anymore. What's that? If you have a complaint, say it. Unable to hold back, I lunged at Ben. Just before I could grab him, Adam stood up from his chair and held my arm to stop me. Let go. Adam, please let go. Mom, it's okay. Because. He whispered quietly in my ear, and I stopped moving abruptly. Ben, however, didn't seem to hear and was grinning. Good job, Adam. You really should learn from your son. Talking back is pointless. Ben mocked us and then went to take a shower. Reassured by Adam's words, I steadily proceeded with the enrollment process. Adam had been watching my struggles, so he had been preparing his own measures for a while. Initially, he secretly worked part-time so that Ben wouldn't notice. I was surprised that he was doing that during such a busy time. However, as much as he was immersed in his studies, the amount a student can earn is limited. Soon, Adam realized how hard it was to earn money and consulted my parents. My dad worked in finance, so he was knowledgeable in that area. Apparently, Adam learned from my dad how to make money with stocks. I didn't know this, but it seems you can invest in stocks with as little as $100. Being smart, Adam quickly learned how to do it. He reinvested the money he earned from his part-time job into stocks, and gradually increased his assets. He didn't earn enough to be removed from our care, so Ben didn't find out about the money. Over the 3 years of high school, Adam successfully earned enough to cover his university entrance fee. I can't imagine how hard it must have been to earn that much. However, Adam had told no one about this except my parents. Ben's parents didn't even give Adam Christmas money. Ben doted only on Hannah and spent money only on her. I had been covering all the tuition and educational expenses with the money I earned. If Ben knew I was earning money, he would have taken it right away. That's why I kept silent about this until the very last moment. I was once again amazed by Adam's intelligence and felt that I too needed to take action. I decided to divorce Ben using this opportunity. Staying with him, I thought, would only make Adam and me miserable. Later, Adam and Hannah graduated from high school. To celebrate their graduation, a family gathering with my in-laws was arranged for the first time in a while. Ben's parents were probably surprised that Adam had been accepted into medical school. Everyone praised Adam, and I was pleased. However, I didn't get carried away. I was keen on not missing this chance. The graduation celebration ended successfully, and it was decided to meet again during the next holidays. I got so wrapped up in preparing that time just raced past, and before I knew it, the day was finally here. It was now or never, I told myself. I had brought the diary I had been keeping and the DNA test results. I couldn't show these to the two. After asking Adam and Hannah to go somewhere else to play, I declared divorce in front of the relatives. Everyone, please listen. I have decided to divorce Ben. My unexpected words silenced the relatives. Ben accidentally dropped his chopsticks. What, divorce? Why are you suddenly saying something like that? That's absurd. Even if it's a joke, it's inconsiderate. I placed a pile of diaries on the table. Everything that happened to me is written here. If you want to know the reasons, just read this. Ben violently slapped the pile of diaries. Don't be ridiculous. This is just a bunch of complaints. What does it mean? Diaries scattered across the table. The relatives, curious, picked up the diaries and started whispering among themselves. My brother-in-law was also amusingly reading through the diaries. Ah, you're terrible, Ben. You haven't changed at all since you were a child. Ben got angry at his brother's words and slammed the table. Even you make fun of me, big brother? The stuff written there is nonsense. Sandra. Don't think this will end so easily. However, for Adam's future, I couldn't back down. I placed the DNA test results on the table for everyone to see. Ben turned pale and tried to hide it, but his brother snatched it before he could. Come on, don't hide it now. It's better to get it all out and feel relieved. My brother-in-law smirked as he read the DNA results. But his smile gradually disappeared. His hands trembled slightly. And his eyes darted around. Sandra, what does this mean? His voice shook as he asked. Remember when we gathered for Adam's school entrance? I secretly took Ben's and Hannah's forks and did a DNA test. According to the results, the two are parent and child. Hearing this, Vanessa covered her mouth in shock. The relatives erupted into chaos, shocked by the unexpected revelation. Sandra, isn't this going too far? On what basis are you doing this? I explained to everyone the basis for my feelings. I've always thought it was strange. Ben dotes only on Hannah. Plus, Hannah looks a lot like Ben. So, I thought the two were having an affair. Vanessa glared at me and threw a diary at me. Don't say such things without proof. That's just an accusation. That's why I presented the proof. I'm tired of this grandchild disparity. I'm using this opportunity to cut ties with you all. My choice to break away from the family made my relatives really upset. The in-laws were the most furious of all. That's unacceptable. Adam's acceptance into medical school is our pride. That's right. And yet you talk about cutting ties. If the neighbors hear about this, it will look bad in the community. I listened to my in-laws' words with a cold heart. They had always favored Hannah and did nothing for Adam. Now that he was accepted into medical school, they suddenly showed interest. It was too convenient. I don't care about your reasons. What are you going to do about the issue with Ben and Vanessa? Everyone's gaze shifted to Ben and Vanessa. This is a fake. They must be trying to trap us because we didn't pay attention to them. Vanessa desperately spat out, and Ben agreed. Vanessa is right. Brother, believe me. I wouldn't do something like this. Plus, the DNA was taken without consent. It doesn't prove anything. With Ben's words, the relatives agreed and started blaming us. Sandra, you've done something terrible. This isn't something to joke about. If you admit it now, kneel and apologize right here. Then we can let this go. I maintained a firm demeanor. Unfortunately, that DNA test is genuine. So there's no reason for me to kneel. My brother-in-law became irritated and glared at Ben. You keep making a fool of us. Hey, Ben, say something. It's your responsibility too. I'll listen to your complaints at home as much as you want. So apologize now. This is troubling me too. Trying to smooth things over with his mild-mannered talk, Ben appeared concerned for himself. If you keep saying it's fake, then let's test again with you, brother-in-law, and Vanessa. That would reassure everyone, wouldn't it? Stop this nonsense now. Vanessa shouted, outraged, but my brother-in-law restrained her with his hand. Indeed. We need to settle this once and for all. Let's do the test again. However, Ben and Vanessa looked uneasy as they exchanged glances. My father-in-law, unaware of their discomfort, slammed the table hard. Enough. Sandra, I will sue you for defamation. And expect a hefty compensation. Now, get out. With that, I left the scene. Later, my father-in-law had Ben and Hannah retested for DNA. They were determined to prove me wrong. He hired a lawyer at great expense, frantic to make me apologize. A week later, we were called again to the in-laws' house as the results had arrived. My father-in-law held the envelope with the DNA results. Everyone's here. Let's open this. As he began reading the results, my mother-in-law smirked maliciously. Sandra, are you ready to kneel? My brother-in-law crossed his arms and glared at me. But my father-in-law didn't say a word. He continued reading the DNA test results, his face turning red. The silence stretched on, prompting my mother-in-law to look at him questioningly. What's taking so long? Tell us the results already. My brother-in-law also looked anxious. My father-in-law sighed deeply and placed the test on the table. Hannah and Ben are confirmed to be parent and child. My mother-in-law screamed in shock. Wait, what? So, Vanessa and Ben were really having an affair? My brother-in-law, too angry to speak, clenched his fists. Ben, explain yourself. Make us understand. My father-in-law's forehead was lined with veins. Ben, sweating and looking down, was next to Vanessa, who had her face buried in her hands. The awkward silence was eventually broken by Vanessa. It's not my fault. It's all Ben's doing. Then, tearfully, she began to explain how it all started. At the beginning of their marriage, her husband was always busy and rarely home, leaving her lonely. As she confided in Ben, they grew closer and she became pregnant with Hannah. To keep it a secret, they concocted a plan to deceive their partners. Upon hearing this, my brother-in-law lunged at Ben. You. How could you stay calm all this time? You must have been mocking me deep down. Ben, shaken by his brother, desperately made excuses. I wasn't mocking you. I was tempted, that's all. I respect you, brother. I love Hannah, and I felt responsible, so I wanted to raise her properly. Hearing this, I sighed deeply, feeling more pity than anger. My in-laws appeared completely disgusted by their son's disgrace. Absolutely shameful. Vanessa, we are getting divorced. Pack your things and leave as soon as we get home. Vanessa looked up and clung to my brother-in-law. Wait, it was just a moment of weakness. I love you. However, my brother-in-law looked at her with contempt. Even if you do, I can't love you anymore. Vanessa moaned and crumpled to the floor. My father-in-law looked on coldly. This has never happened before. Ben, Vanessa, you both are shameful to our family. I don't want to see you again. Thus, Ben, Vanessa, and Hannah were cut off. I proceeded with the divorce from Ben. But he was obstinate and negotiations were difficult. I consulted my dad, who referred me to a skilled lawyer. With the lawyer's help, we finally settled the divorce. Ben was pretty stubborn, which meant he had to pay a lot more in child support and compensation. I also wanted him to cover Adam's college fees. The divorce between my brother-in-law and Vanessa was also finalized, and Vanessa and Hannah began living with Ben. Their lives seemed much harsher than before. Hannah later got closer to Adam and started talking to me more. I was also pressured by my parents and relatives to become a model. It was tough. This ordeal was shocking, but it cleared the air. Hannah also kept in touch with my brother-in-law, allowing me to learn about the aftermath in their family. After the event, my mother-in-law, unable to contain her shock, narrated the whole saga to the neighbors as if she were the heroine of a tragedy. As a result, airing the family's dirty laundry in the neighborhood made them the subject of ridicule. Apparently, the neighbors disliked my in-laws and took this opportunity to mock them. Consequently, my father-in-law and mother-in-law, their pride wounded, became recluses and eventually fled their home like fugitives. However, since we had already severed ties, this was no longer my concern. Adam and I returned to my parents' home. Adam enjoyed university life to the fullest, engaging in part-time jobs and club activities. It seemed he also had a girlfriend and was thoroughly enjoying his days. I also started a makeup teaching studio in a property owned by my parents, fulfilling a long-held dream. Hannah, who had wanted to work in a similar field, asked me for a job as a part-time employee. At Adam's request, I hired her, and she turned out to be a great help. After a tough journey, everything has come together. I'm now making money from what I love, and I'm genuinely happy.